I'm just sharing you the history of commands that just happened today. So I'll just anyhow this also not so comprehensive one. Let me cancel that file share. Okay, I'll give you notes on this how to set this up. But we assume things you should be quite comfortable with Linux and things. So that is what I would recommend you. So once you actually get things comfortable, let me know. But these are all this whatever topic just we saw is pretty straightforward. So that does not even require any. So which means that does not even require any much overhead at this point. So whatever we have just covered in today's session is very basic. It is nothing but expanding it into another node, nothing beyond that. So it just involves three steps. That is what I just explained. So your no, Suresh, please stop before I complete. So there is no point in just arguing. I don't believe in arguing with things. So I'm just explaining what is the steps that we follow today. Okay. Yeah. Right. So it is nothing but three simple steps. So which means you already have a single node cluster, and the whole point of today's session is to make it as a multi-node cluster, which means one single node cluster plus another data node is what we plan to do. In that way, I'll just explain you what we did, and I'll give you the reference commands for you to actually practice out later. Yeah. So that is how we need to actually do. So in that sense, you should already have one simple single node cluster ready, and the single node cluster needs to be expanded into another one more node. So in that sense, one more data node, what you essentially need to do is you just need to update your slaves file that the new node has already your SSH configured without a password, and you also have a username called Hadoop inside that, and you also have a directory called slash data and the Hadoop setup inside that. Once you have things ready, you just do a start all from that primary node where we previously considered it as a single node. Once you start things up, it will do an SSH inside that machine. So it will actually read each and every entry of your slaves file, and it will SSH into that machine, and it will update so the configuration, or it will start the services, whatever is what we wanted to actually do. So that is what when we actually do a JPS on this machine. So we saw something called the whole setup here, and on the other machine we have something called the data node and the task tracker. So that is what the whole difference is. So once you actually verify this up, so verify that okay, this machine got primary name node that we saw, that this is your master node, and this is what you call it as a data node. You can still remove from the slaves node from now that you can still remove the data node to be running on the master node. So which means you still have one single node. So that is what we call it as. Yeah, go ahead, Harish.
Yeah, Sarana. So once we remove the data node from the master, right, or from the primary name node,
Yeah.
so we will not have this task tracker and the 11484 ID data node not running on the main
You are
node,
right.
right?
Shall we try that out? Yeah, shall we try that out? So more than
Yeah. No,
anything.
before we, I have one question. Before we try out that, right? Can you spin off the job tracker onto a different machine?
You can still run it. So the job tracker can be spinned off into a different machine provided you need to have another machine configured. So those answers you should already find it. So how do you do that? Under your cons, where is the file we actually specify your job tracker? Remember?
Probably the map red site.
Sorry. You're right. So, right. So here you specify something called your job tracker is going to run on this IP
Okay.
address. Similarly, like if you can replace this IP address with some other IP address that is available on your network, accessible via SSH, things will work out. Straightforward.
Okay. Good.
That's it. So,
Hey, I have a question.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, you did set up the name node, right? But
Yeah.
when you ran the JPS, I'm seeing secondary name node, which you haven't set up. Is that configured before or?
Okay, so I have a question for you. So where do we configure your secondary name node?
Well, we haven't done that. Maybe I'm wrong, but we
Okay, okay.
haven't done that.
So
But
yeah,
why we?
if you okay, I just want you to recollect on something that we saw. We have something called masters file, remember?
Right.
Yeah, the masters file is going to carry your secondary name node. So previously when it was a single node cluster, this master file was available.
Okay.
Correct?
So
So that
this
time we
is
actually you can also move the secondary name node into a different node. Basically, how do you do that is edit your master, and if you have another one machine dedicated for your secondary name node, update that IP address over here. Simple.
okay. One more question, Sabanan. I do
Yeah.
agree with everybody that we need some kind of documentation. Nobody's arguing, but we need documentation for the references. If we are done with the class, like if you ask what we have done in the previous class, we wouldn't know because nobody has provided any documentation or any recording. So how would we remember with so many things going on?
Yes, Sri Kuneru, I have already answered that question. I said I'll give it. There is no point in again questioning about that. I said I'll give it. Yeah.
Okay, maybe what I heard is you are providing only these three, not the documentation. So
No, we don't really provide the full documentation, but whatever is required for you to practice, I'll give you the notes. So we call it as
okay.
more of an post class notes. You can actually have it
Yeah,
as a
something to refer. Yeah.
yeah, perfect. Yeah. Yes, Rakesh. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Provided you have, yeah, you need to take care of everything. Here, everything means you need to have a passwordless SSH. You need to have a username called Hadoop. You need to have a Hadoop installation under the same path where you already have it over here. So these are all once you have made sure that everything is all available, that is what you call it as a new machine that is available, that is ready for you to work on as a slave. That is your data node or your whatever you want to actually place it up as. You're right. So when you say Hadoop installation, the directory, I mean this slash data slash Hadoop. Yes, exactly. Once you configure that, everything seems to be, so that is why we need to have a standardized configuration. Sorry? Yeah, yes. Yes. So essentially, you can copy the whole set of configuration. It all depends upon who is going to run there. And so when you say a data node is going to run, so data node does not really need all the configurations. But your data node needs something called what is your job tracker, what is your task tracker, what is your name node. These details are all primarily utilized by your data node. But in case like you are actually picking up another machine and that machine you are going to actually add something called you are going to add that machine as your uh, call it as your secondary name node. So that secondary name node might not require all your job tracker things and all, but the secondary name node will actually need the configuration that is more pertaining to your name node, because name node and secondary name node are the primary people who talk with each other. So similarly, it actually varies. Okay, so when you say a secondary name node, when you say like, okay, you have one single node cluster and you want to, when you have a four node cluster and you want to expand it for the another three nodes, what you used to do, you pick up a Linux box, you actually have some basic setup that you will have to do. That is what you would have already done it. One is setting up the user called Hadoop. The other one is making your passwordless SSH to work. And then the later part is having the single set of the configuration files available at the right place. That is what we did today. So we already have a single node cluster. Single node cluster is pushed into another node, the configuration set of your Hadoop installation directory. That is what I just started to. So see here you have a direct ball called Hadoop-DN. I just edited all those configuration options that is all required for a single name node to actually a pseudo distributed cluster to set up, and then packed up the same configuration. I did an SCP and pushed this tarball in file this place and then extracted the same configuration. So which means this installation directory is very similar to this, and I'll just edit something that is all required over here. So which means like I'll make sure that since this is a single node cluster, so your data node requires to actually point to something called a name node. That is the reason why we focus on something called, rather than giving a local host or something more locally available, you need to always give a fully qualified domain name. So even though you actually separate these components across your network, so it should still point to some unique node. So when you actually define something as a local node, it might actually refer to its own place where the configuration is sitting. So these are all something we need to make a note of. Correct? Anything else? Any other questions? I'll just give you a short document on how this works. So also on the single node cluster and then moving it as a, expanding it as a multi-node cluster. I'll just give you. Yeah. Any other questions we have? Fine. Thank you then. So you'll actually get the document. So just have a look at it. And Suresh, like if you feel you have actually got stuck in your local installation, just get back to me offline. So we can actually help you on setting that up. So because single node cluster should be actually, you must be quite comfortable with setting that up. So we need to be comfortable with that. Yes. Sorry? Yeah, I'll give you both. I'll notes. Look at that. That's not essentially possible because each and every server that we run is all quite costly. So even though we still have 5 servers running, but since you are actually setting things up is not really required for everyone to actually practice. So once you actually go ahead, cross this process, you always have two servers running your Hadoop so that you can actually practice things on top of that. Because when you say like we can't really give the same servers to others so that they can't really access it, so these are all something that we classify it as shuffled machine, so which means it can be flushed at any point of time. So this does not have any production here, so which means like you can actually use it for your own purpose, understand the configuration, might be use it as a reference and then go ahead. So this is, yeah, it should be available. Let me know if you don't get the access. So this is your, whatever I have typed in, is your master. Okay, master node is this one. Data node is this one. You can still shuffle it, basically understand what we have done today. Then you can actually, that is available for the students to practice. You can do literally anything, whatever you want. Yeah. So make a note of this. The username and the password remains same. That is a username Hadoop and the password Big Data. Anything else, just shoot us an email so I can actually help you out on any places where we also have a team to actually provide you support. So can also shoot us an email in case you're getting stuck. Yeah. Till then, thank you all.